the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
One very important point here about the governance in Ghana and progress propaganda. So Rebecca, way back 2008, Ebra President Kufuor ebefre konwa so. NDC ebeka kire Ghana for say President Kufuor was the poorest president ever existed. Ye climb it up. Atamos be take over. Mahama bae koye. Akufo-Addo bae. NDC Sambeka says Akufo-Addo is the poorest president. Ebe kachire Ghana for BM say Kufuor mum no muso ye poorest no has done much better and he's the best performing president in Ghana. Lawyer Paul Otchere ne wako pie Good Morning Ghana Metro TV and I was saying Ghana for some time say very close. NDC is going to come back and tell Ghanaians to say Akufo-Addo is the best performing president in Ghana. Now he has touted the achievements of Nana Odankwo Akufo-Addo and the NPP government comparatively, relatively with that of the NDC, and you could see say when it comes to social interventions, free SHS, national health insurance, TVET, STEM, ambulances, drip machines, all these social interventions have been brought into Ghana by NPP. But that of the NDC, you can't mention much. Now, some of the other there, I'm very much sure say the Akufo-Addo administration, Akufo-Addo himself, claps for Paul Otchere this morning.
By the Akufo-Addo government. But it's not just free SHS. There was STEM education, there was ICT kindergarten, there was 80 educational projects opened one day, there was fees for all public schools, BEC, absorbed by the government for the first time. There was 3,000 education infrastructure projects completed. STEM was introduced to this country by Akufo-Addo. It's for the young people. They are benefiting from it. There were 300 science laboratories instituted across Ghana. In sports, there were 3 AstroTurfs in 2016. By the time Akufo-Addo was leaving, it's 150. There were 300 ambulances nationwide put across. There was free TVET, which was novel, never happened. There were several model STEM schools built, Abomosu STEM School, Penkasu STEM School, Dabiaso STEM School. STEM. Ghana leads in STEM because of Akufo-Addo's vision. There was Agenda 111, which was supposed to have 111 hospitals. It ended up having less than 10% of it, but it was a project started. There was upgrading of police and security services. There were 3 helicopters to the police. Today we are hearing that they were bought old, etc., etc. There were restoration of trainee fee allowances, which President Mahama is continuing. There was free dialysis, sickle cell, and childhood, which President Mahama is continuing under Mahama Care. There was 1 district, 1 factory. These are the things that have to be done, that every government can say these are the things that we have done to move forward. But importantly, so that we don't take advantage of each other in a way that another one can take advantage 8 years' time, because it will happen. President Mahama became president in January. By March, he traveled somewhere, and then you see the video, somebody standing, somebody standing, say, Shwe Mahama cars, and he's counting it, it is there. Just coming from the same election where we campaigned that somebody was doing it, because we have refused to delineate certain things. When the budget for the Jubilee House was issued, and they said media and communication is 78 million, then NDC said the NPP's own was more. NPP said NDC's own is more. Why can't Parliament have a decision-making system that says that this is the president's convoy? Every president will have this convoy. But because if we keep on taking advantage and there's no delineation of what has to be done and what should not be done, and that is a failure of this generation, especially the politicians since 2004, 2008. We talk about, Kojo makes a point about Ghana Airways and how we lost Ghana Airways. The Ghana Airways problem is something that started under something called DIC, he knows it, Diversity Implementation Committee. The Rawlings government felt that there were too many state-owned enterprises that were not performing. It is true that Kwame Nkrumah set up Ghana Airways. Sometime in the 80s, Kwesi Botwe read the budget, and the whole Ghana was shocked to know that Ghana Airways tickets were being subsidized by the Ministry of Finance, that if individuals buy tickets on Ghana Airways, it was being subsidized. It was good for the 1960s to give the Ghanaians the exposure that we need, but it was irrelevant in the 1980s, and that was saddling the government of Ghana with So that process began, the deconstruction of Ghana Airways as an entity that was not properly managed in the financial sense, began in the Rawlings era, and it came to Kufuor's era, and he took the decision that we have to perhaps change it into Ghana International Airline, blah, 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 blah. Mistakes could have been made. But these are things that you can't put on one political party or the other. That's the point I'm making, that it is very, very important that we begin to set out these things. Otherwise, in 2008, we say Kufuor is a villain. In 2023, we say he's a hero. Same Kufuor. He didn't do anything after 2008. It is the same set of facts that delivered him in an equation as a villain in 2008 for in 2024 as a hero, not by MPP, but by NDC. The NDC that said that Kufuor was a villain with the same set of facts of Kufuor's administration came back in 2023 in pointing out by Akufo-Addo's faults and Bawumia's faults, said that Kufuor is far better than all of you. President Mahama lost elections in 2016. President Mahama won elections in 2024. So until and unless we understand, like it is in many developed societies, that we have to delineate what we can discuss and what Parliament must agree on. So we know that the salary of a president is agreed on by a commission that is set up every now and then through the parliamentary process. So nobody complains about salary of a president. Whatever other things that are done, whether the president can carry his own chair, whether chief executives can carry their own chair, whether the president's motorcade must have 3 cars, 2 cars, 7 cars, 8 cars, those things should be delineated so that the political class can be left with policy. What is TVET? Why did you bring TVET? It's a bad policy, so we can discuss policy and leave out, oh, people are suffering and we are on the taxpayers, you're on the taxpayers' neck, and one politician points to them. You see, whilst you are suffering, he is traveling to Britain with the president in business class. Whilst you are suffering, he is doing that. Whilst you are suffering, President Mahama came and announced the policy of his ministers should not travel in first class. Should that be a political question for the president? No. It should be a delineated matter in Parliament. So you know a rank from chief director travels this way, deputy minister travels this way, and every deputy minister, whether regime A or regime B. Until and unless we get there, our politics will be, you chook me, I chook you. That's, as they say, dog bites dog. That's where we are. And if we continue that, it is we, myself, Kojo, and others who have failed the generation that he's complaining about. Because it is time for us to stop the politics of dog eats dog, and let's understand that let's get into policy. Akufo-Addo has rolled out, according to him, X number of policies. Let us discuss it. Mr. Akufo-Addo, your free SHS, these are the issues with it. But if we say that, oh, Mr. Akufo-Addo, you traveled with this plane and you went here, and then it was a decision by the Air Force because some plane is not working. Another president comes, the situation arises, and then we are all over the place because we don't have a line item that is explaining how the president should behave. And that brings me to the Shatta Wale issue. It is important for us to I was reading this book the other day, and I was reading about the 1874 prime minister, and somebody said, the writer said that a politician's fortune changed because the Tories came back to power and they arrested him, blah, blah, blah. This was in 1874. So I noticed that, oh, this was happening in England. It is important for us to reduce discretion of state actors and the public office holders. We have done some. The 1992 Constitution brought about when people are arrested, you have to, within 48 hours, charge them. That was a very important delineation of how discretion can be applied. Now we are all talking about and seeing all kinds of articles about bail. There has to be a clear delineation. Could you sit here and he's on bail in Iyoko? Is that not ridiculous? There has to be a clear way in which we understand and delineate the bail so that the person who has the discretion of the state authority to institute the bail is working within limits. Currently, the police work within the limits of the 1992 Constitution. Can we imagine, before the 1992 Constitution came, when there was no delineation of how long you can hold somebody before you charge them, what was happening in our criminal justice system? These are the important things that this generation of politicians must look at. How do politicians behave? How should they behave? If you read Lee Kuan Yew, he was paying politicians a lot of money for achieving results. That's a model that worked. People of Singapore, the opposition in Singapore, could have risen up and said that Lee Kuan Yew is paying $1 million to a minister. But Lee Kuan Yew said that, look, let me get the best and the most attractive people for Singapore to be able to move the country forward. What moves the country forward is not rhetoric. What moves the country forward is cogent thinking that brings out policy That's what moves Singapore forward. That's what moves America forward. That's what moves Britain forward. It's not the propaganda and the policy. That's okay. We can all do that. That's fine. But what really moves the country forward is the policy thinking. That's very important. So we say that in 1957, we say that we are going to take independence to show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. Beautiful propaganda rings through our ears, inspires all of us. 68 years later, were we able to put the policies in to achieve that purpose? Singapore was able to do it. In the late 80s, the East Asian Tigers were able to do it. So it is important for this generation of very clever politicians to begin to delineate things in our system and say that this one will be done this way, this will be done that way. Then we leave the playing field of policy for discussion. And to be able to poke, MPP can poke NDC, NDC can poke MPP on policy. What are you going to achieve? This is your policy. How many people is it going to solve? How many people are taking off the streets? So we can have a real debate about our society. If we don't do that, and we keep doing these things that we've been doing since 1998 and 2008 and all of that, then we are going to have topsy-turvy. What you said you won't do, you will come to office, you will do it. Because it is like that. And the videos are there. These days, I'm going to film your convoy. And your convoy will be 30 cars. His convoy, somebody will say, oh, that day the video said Akufo-Addo's convoy was 28. This one is 31. I mean, so my concern is that what we need to do at this generation is to delineate certain things critically to reduce the amount of propaganda we can do with politics, so that the discussion is brought within the context of policy thinking. How do we treat our doctors? How do we treat our nurses? I saw a Facebook post by one Addo over the Rich Hospital who said that, but a company like Rich Hospital, they don't have protocols for how these things are handled. We don't write these things down and say that these are the protocols for how these things are handled. When somebody comes in, this is what happens, this is what happens. If the nurses and the doctors have those protocols, it should be well established, well published for people to understand, so that very little is left to the unpredictable spectrum. Right. Very little is left to discretion, especially by those who act for the state. They have to have very little discretion. And then we leave the rest as a political question that we can discuss. It's very, very important.
Okay. Now, speaking about Shatta Wale, today's Telegraphic reports that Shatta Wale has released 5 million bond, 5 million cedis bond, and also 2 sureties, and that the funds actually besieged Yoko precincts. And the story is by Emmanuel Ebu Hoxing and Justice Agbenosi. I hope I got the pronunciation correctly. It's the revision of bail conditions coupled with the sheer force of youth support secure the release of dancehall artist Charles Ni Amamenta, known in showbiz circles as Shatta Wale, from the detention of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, Yoko. Now, this was moments after scores of fans besieged the precincts of the anti-graft agency demanding the release of the dancehall artist who spent a night in the detention of Yoko in Accra after he was invited there last Wednesday to assist with investigations regarding a Lamborghini Urus he had purchased. Now, the vehicle has been found to be part of the proceeds of $4 million crime, for which one Nana Kwabena Amwa is serving in jail term in the USA. Now, Yoko granted Shatta Wale bail in the sum of 10 million cedis last Wednesday, with 2 sureties to be justified. Now, per the bail condition, Shatta Wale must present sureties who possess properties commensurate with the bail amount. Now, for the better part of yesterday, the popular musician could not meet the bail conditions and remained in the custody of the anti-graft agency until later in the evening, when he was released on inquiry bail after his counsel prayed Yoko to vary the bail conditions. Now, the counsel for the musician, Cephas Boyo, told the Daily Graphic following his client's release that Shatta Wale was released after a prayer for Yoko to vary the 10 million cedis bail. Now, consequently, the investigative body reduced the initial bail bond from 10 million cedis with 2 sureties to be justified to 5 million cedis with 2 sureties and no justification. He said his client was expected to report to Yoko 3 times every week until investigations into the case had been completed. Now, in a live broadcast on TikTok, Shatta Wale expressed gratitude to the leadership of Yoko for the reception accorded him during the investigations. He also thanked his fans for showing up to support him. Now, the king is home. I'm quoting him. The king is home and safe, and thanks everyone for being around me in times like this, because I needed you guys the most, because you guys are the ones that hold me down. he said in a somber mood, "You guys at Yoko have been wonderful. I came there and you took me through the rightful processes that were needed. I want to say God bless you and your family, Raymond Acha. I thank you so much for your understanding," he stated in that video. Of course, earlier there was calls of fans, some riding motorbikes. They blocked Independence Link, the main road leading to Yoko office, causing significant traffic congestion, with some threatening to use their teeth to tear the Yoko walls and cells open if Shatta Wale was not released. Now, many fans held placards with inscriptions such as "Free Don 1" or "One Don," "Leave the youth alone," and "Free Shatta Wale." Others with red flags chanting and playing the musician songs from loudspeakers mounted on stationary mini tracks they had brought along. Now, this is what the Yoko explains. This is the Yoko's part of the side of the story. Now, a statement issued by Yoko indicated that investigations was part of a larger one being conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigations in the United States of America to unravel and recover proceeds of the said $4 million crime to be used as restitution. It says, following the request from the FBI and the U.S. Justice Department for Yoko to track the vehicle and conduct local investigations in respect of uncovering possible, conspirators, possible conspirators in Ghana, Yoko began looking for the vehicle until it was identified and seized in or around May this year in the possession of one Charles Nyama Mensah. Now, Yoko explained that Shatta Wale arrived at his office at 3 p.m. but was interrogated from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., so 4 hours. His lawyer got to the premises later, and the musician had insisted that he would not cooperate until his lawyer arrived. Now, according to Yoko, during the investigation, Shatta Wale was unable to identify where or from whom he purchased the vehicle, with a claim that he bought it, and the story is on. I'm going to end with the last paragraph on page 26. Page 26, this part of the story is extremely important, so that